Thank you very much for watching. This is exclusive content from the World Retail Congress 2017 here in Dubai, where I caught up with Nim De Swardt. Let's hear what Nim has to say. Well, I'm joined by Nim, who is the Chief Next Generation Officer for Bacardi. Nim, a very interesting job title. First of all, just explain what the next generation is in that context.
Yes, it is a very disruptive job title. As Chief Next Generation Officer, I lead the next generation strategy for the Bacardi company globally in partnership with our CEO, Michael Dolan.
We've heard pretty much in every session at the World Retail Congress here in Dubai, people use the word entrepreneur in various different ways. You know, entrepreneurial spirit, entrepreneurial generation, you want to be seen as entrepreneurs. You look at it in a slightly different way in terms of what's an intrapreneur.
Yeah.
Explain what we mean by that.
Yeah, so an intrapreneur is basically someone that's innovating from within an organization as an entrepreneur would. So, some of the great qualities of the entrepreneur model can really be seen in your employees. For example, a high level of curiosity, the ability to adapt and change and take risks. And I really believe in the power of innovating from within an organization through the entrepreneurial spirit of your employees. Because most workforces at the moment are made up of, at least 40% Gen Y or millennials. And with the rise of Gen Z coming into the workplace, all those entrepreneurial spirits are already sitting within the organizations you work at.
Now, again, one of the themes, not only of the conference, but also when you look at HR magazines and you look at some of the issues that the CEOs are facing in terms of talent pool, is a very different new generation coming into the workforce, different expectations, different requirements, purely 100% digital natives in a sense. Bacardi has sort of identified that as an important thing to understand from a strategic perspective for the next generation, if I excuse the pun, for Bacardi's growth. Explain a little bit about the genesis of why that was important for Bacardi and what you're now doing in order to make it happen.
Yeah, so I think the most important thing for us at Bacardi is that we've identified nearly 44% of our organisation are already Gen Y or millennials, so our target consumers' age. So what if we had the right processes, procedures and initiatives to really use their insights and entrepreneurial spirits to drive relevant ideation up right to the top of the organisation?
Now, some would say interesting idea, impossible to execute, and highly disruptive within the organisation. What would you say to that?
Agree. So yes, the intrapreneur model is highly disruptive, and I always say you can teach an old dog new tricks, right? And in my role as Chief Next Generation Officer, it's really about adding value to all generations across the organisation, and it's not primarily focused just on these millennials or the upcoming Gen Z.
Now, a lot of organisations created maybe a year or 2 years ago was the in thing, sort of shadow boards of sort of young people within the organisations, so that ideas could percolate upwards. I think very few were particularly successful. What are you doing across the organisation to empower the views of the new generation to make sure that that actually impacts decision making, the way things are done, the processes, even the IT infrastructure that the generation is used to?
Yeah, so I think that the future of work, which I'm absolutely fascinated by, is really driven by employee ownership, employee empowerment, and experiences. And so traditionally, we used to develop within organizations in a very hierarchical power play way. But what we've done at Bacardi, for example, is last year we gave 8 of our biggest business critical issues or projects, and instead of giving them to agencies externally or to our global leadership team, we actually briefed some of our youngest up-and-coming talent of employees, and we tasked them for 7 months to come up with their recommendations on how we solve some of these big business critical issues. So I think one thing you really need is a clear support and process and procedure. So for example, on the support basis, they're a part of a strategic talent development program that's directly supported by the CEO office. Secondly, they know that their recommendations are going to be presented right up to the Bacardi Board of Directors. And thirdly, we're empowering them in addition to their day job. So we're giving them experiences outside of the function, region, or department they work at Bacardi.
Now, apart from the benefits of the advice and the implementation of that, what other benefits does that give the organisation as an active, learning, growing company?
So the number one benefit that we have seen, and something that Michael Dolan, our CEO, often speaks about, is that diversity truly fuels broader, more innovative thinking, right? And so if you have an organization that's working in silos, the greatest thing you can do is really start to cross-pollinate. And when we talk about cross-pollination, we talk about genders, geographies, generations. And when you start to truly cross-pollinate these elements within your business, you really start to see the power of community. And as we get more and more connected to our devices, we're really craving the connection with each other. And so it's the power of community that's led the next generation success so far at the Bacardi company.
Now, for companies watching this thinking, actually, that's a really neat idea, never really thought about it before, what advice would you give them to ensure that a next generation strategy works within their organisation?
So my advice would be it has to come from the top. It needs to be supported from the top, and it's quite a disruptive model, especially in traditional corporate environments. And if it has top-level support, and that kind of sponsorship, and then the second piece is while Michael Dolan is the sponsor of this project, I'm the activator, right? So it's very essential that if you're looking at the entrepreneurship model, you truly find the person or the individual that can activate these waves of disruption, because resilience is a huge piece of my work, and day to day it's navigating the political waters of an organization and truly trying to push the envelope and break the status quo. And we hear a lot about disruption, especially at conferences like this, but that's my full-time job.
And what would you say the factors of success, if you look back maybe what you would have achieved over the course of a few years, or what other people might achieve in a similar role, what would you say a key factor of success was looking backwards?
So, every single morning I wake up and the first thing I ask myself is, how can the Bacardi company be as future fit as possible? And so in preparation for the future, we're 155 years old and a family-owned organization. And so our future is really going to be dependent on powering the next generation of employees and the next generation of family members. So when we look at success on the next generation strategy, we look at it very holistically. It's a long-term play, right? And it has a lot of individual impact with our employees. Then it also goes on to have a lot of project impact through the way that we're disrupting the ways of working and really truly driving ideation from the ground up right to the top of the organization. And then thirdly, I would say that how we're adding value to our existing functions. So within the next generation strategy, we're constantly partnering with existing functions within our business like corporate communications, IT, and we go in with a partnership mentality.
Well, I think you would have inspired many people to look at their organisations in that sort of way, this whole notion of an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
and,
thank you.
And also to, you know, I mean, the future's certainly not what it used to be, and I think this is a really interesting lens to organise your business around. So
Yeah.
thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to say one last thing, and that is, you know, I've heard it, especially at this conference, the challenges we're facing with, you know, the millennials and the Gen Z. But, you know, I truly believe that the next generation, they aren't just our greatest challenge, but they are our greatest opportunity.
Great. With that, it's a very opportunistic and way to end. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed for watching. This is just one of the interviews that we conducted at the World Retail Congress 2017 in Dubai, where we broadcast every night with an hours-long program. In order to see any of those programs or to watch any of the other interviews, just go to this website here. My name's David Roth from WPP. Thank you very much indeed for watching.